Every evening, as the last rays of sunlight illuminated the church's stained glass windows in hues of gold and crimson, a small stray cat would appear at the entrance. It sat quietly by the doors, its emerald green eyes fixed on the interior, as though waiting for someone. When Father Michael finally noticed the cat's peculiar behavior and uncovered the heartbreaking truth behind its nightly vigil, he was brought to tears. What could have compelled such loyalty and sorrow in this little creature? It was a peaceful, almost idyllic small town where everyone knew each other by name. At its heart stood St. Gabriel's Church, an old stone building with ivy-covered walls and a towering bell that chimed every hour. For the townspeople, the church wasn't just a place of worship, it was a sanctuary, a beacon of comfort and hope in trying times. Father Michael, a kind-hearted man in his late 40s, had served as the priest of St. Gabriel's for over a decade. His days were filled with sermons, confessions, and tending to the needs of his parishioners. Though his work was fulfilling, there was a loneliness that lingered in his heart, a void he rarely acknowledged even to himself. One chilly autumn evening, as Father Michael locked the church doors after the evening mass, he noticed a small movement near the steps. There, sitting quietly and shivering in the crisp air, was a stray cat. Its fur was a mix of smoky gray and white, and its eyes shone brightly even in the fading light. The cat seemed frail, as though it had endured many harsh nights without a home. Father Michael paused, his keys dangling in his hand. "Well, hello there," he said softly, his voice carrying the warmth that had comforted so many. The cat didn't run but didn't approach either. It simply sat, staring at him with an intensity that felt almost human. The priest lingered for a moment, unsure of what to do. He wasn't particularly experienced with animals, and the cat didn't seem interested in leaving. "You're welcome to stay," he murmured before heading back to the rectory. That night, as he prepared for bed, he couldn't shake the image of the small creature waiting by the church steps. The next evening, as Father Michael walked to the church for Mass, the cat was there again. It sat in the exact same spot, its small frame hunched against the cold wind. This time, he brought a saucer of milk and placed it gently near the cat. "Here," he said, kneeling down. "You must be hungry." The cat hesitated but eventually crept closer, sniffing the milk before lapping it up. Father Michael watched quietly, a faint smile on his face. "You're persistent, aren't you?" he said. "What are you waiting for?" As the days turned into weeks, the cat became a regular presence outside the church. It would appear every evening just as the sun dipped below the horizon and stay until the church doors were locked. Some of the parishioners began to notice, their curiosity piqued. "Is it yours, Father?" an elderly woman asked one evening after Mass. Father Michael shook his head. "No, it's a stray, but it seems to have made this its home." Despite its growing familiarity with Father Michael, the cat remained distant, never allowing anyone to touch it. It would eat the food he provided and then return to its silent vigil by the church doors. There was something almost sacred about its routine, as though it were guarding the church or waiting for someone who never came. Father Michael's curiosity grew. Why had the cat chosen St. Gabriel's, and what kept it coming back night after night? He decided he needed to find out. As the days passed, the cat's presence became a topic of quiet intrigue among the townspeople. Parishioners would linger after Mass, pointing at the little creature perched on the church steps. Some even began to bring small offerings, bits of food, blankets, and toys. Despite the growing attention, the cat remained aloof, as if its sole focus was the church and its routine. Father Michael couldn't help but notice how the cat's unwavering vigil stirred something within the community. "It's almost as if it's reminding us of something," remarked Mrs. Campbell, a widowed baker who had spent many lonely nights lighting candles in the church. "Devotion, loyalty, maybe even faith," the priest nodded thoughtfully. He had seen firsthand how the cat had become a symbol of quiet strength and persistence. For the children, it was a mystery to solve. For the elderly, it was a source of comfort. But for Father Michael, it was a question that demanded an answer. What was the cat waiting for? One evening, as the first snowflakes of the season began to fall, Father Michael decided to keep watch. He stayed late after Mass, seated in the pews with his coat wrapped tightly around him. Outside, the cat sat in its usual spot, undeterred by the cold. Hours passed, and the church grew silent save for the occasional creak of the old wooden beams. Finally, just before midnight, the cat stirred. Father Michael leaned forward, his heart quickening. The little creature rose to its feet and padded quietly toward the side of the church. Intrigued, the priest followed, careful to keep his distance. The cat led him to a small alcove beneath a stained glass window. There, nestled among the fallen leaves and snow, was a small wooden cross, weathered by time. Father Michael crouched down, brushing away the debris to reveal the inscription, "In loving memory of Rebecca Grace, 1995 to 2010. A wave of emotion washed over him. Rebecca Grace had been a bright and spirited girl from the town, a regular at Sunday school. She had tragically passed away over a decade ago after a sudden illness. The community had mourned deeply, and her family had moved away shortly after, unable to bear the reminders of their loss. Father Michael gazed at the cross, then back at the cat. "Are you here for her?" he whispered, his voice catching in his throat. The cat sat silently, its green eyes fixed on the cross as if in acknowledgement. Father Michael felt a shiver, not from the cold, but from the realization that this wasn't a coincidence. The next day, Father Michael shared the discovery with the parish council. "It's as if this little creature is watching over her memory," he said, "or perhaps reminding us to remember." Word spread quickly, and the story of the cat and Rebecca's cross captured the hearts of the townspeople. For some, it was a poignant reminder of life's fragility. For others, it was a call to reconnect with their faith. Despite the newfound attention, the cat remained unchanged. Every evening, it returned to the church, sitting quietly by the doors before making its way to the alcove. Father Michael began leaving a small candle by Rebecca's cross, lighting it each night as a gesture of remembrance. But the priest couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Why had the cat chosen this place, this cross? Was it truly a coincidence, or was there something deeper at play? Father Michael couldn't stop thinking about the connection between the cat and Rebecca's cross. The more he pondered, the more questions emerged. Had the cat simply stumbled upon the spot, or was it drawn there by something deeper, something unexplainable? He decided to dig further into Rebecca's story, hoping it might shed light on the cat's mysterious devotion. The next morning, Father Michael visited the town's library to search through old records and news articles. He found a collection of clippings about Rebecca, her family, and the tragedy that had befallen them. The Grace family had been deeply involved in the church, often volunteering and attending services together. Rebecca had been particularly fond of animals, and one article mentioned how she had a habit of rescuing stray cats. She always said animals had souls too, her mother was quoted as saying. Rebecca believed every creature deserved kindness. The priest's heart ached as he read her words. Was it possible that the stray cat now visiting the church was one of the animals Rebecca had cared for? The timeline seemed unlikely, no cat could live that long, and yet the cat's behavior defied explanation. Determined to learn more, Father Michael sought out the Grace's former neighbor, Mrs. Hensley. The elderly woman still lived in the same house, just a few streets away from the church. When Father Michael explained his visit, Mrs. Hensley's eyes lit up with recognition. "Oh, Rebecca was such a sweet girl," Mrs. Hensley said, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "She had a way with animals, especially cats. There was one in particular, a grey tabby she called Clover. That cat adored her and followed her everywhere." Father Michael leaned forward. "Do you know what happened to Clover after Rebecca passed?" Mrs. Hensley hesitated, her expression clouding. "Her parents moved away so quickly. I remember seeing Clover wandering the streets for a while, but then she disappeared. I always hoped someone took her in." Father Michael left Mrs. Hensley's home with more questions than answers. The current stray didn't resemble Clover, yet the connection felt undeniable. Could the cat be a descendant of Rebecca's beloved pet, drawn to the church by some inherited instinct or memory? Or was it something more profound, an echo of Rebecca's kindness living on through the cat's actions? That evening, Father Michael decided to confront the mystery head-on. He waited until the cat arrived at its usual spot outside the church doors. This time, instead of watching from a distance, he knelt down and spoke softly. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why are you here?" The cat tilted its head, its green eyes meeting his with an intensity that made Father Michael's breath catch. For a moment, the world seemed to fall silent. Then, to his astonishment, the cat stood and walked toward him, brushing against his outstretched hand. Father Michael felt a warmth spread through him, a sense of peace he couldn't explain. "You're here for a reason," he murmured, "a reason I don't fully understand. But maybe I don't need to." The cat lingered for a moment before turning and walking toward Rebecca's cross. Father Michael followed, his heart pounding. When they reached the alcove, the cat sat beside the cross, its gaze unwavering. In that moment, Father Michael felt a deep sense of clarity. The cat wasn't just a stray, it was a guardian, a symbol of love and loyalty that transcended time. Whether through fate, faith, or something beyond human comprehension, the cat had chosen to honor Rebecca's memory. And in doing so, it had brought the community together in a way no sermon ever could. As Father Michael stepped back into the rectory that evening, the weight of the cat's mysterious behavior pressed heavily on his heart. He couldn't shake the image of the small creature sitting by the church doors, its quiet vigil mirroring the steadfast faith of the congregation. What was it waiting for, and why had it chosen the church as its sanctuary? These questions echoed in his mind as he sat at his desk, staring at his Bible, unable to focus on the sermon he needed to prepare. The following morning, Father Michael shared his thoughts with Maria, the parish's longtime housekeeper. Maria, a sharp-eyed woman with a deep sense of empathy, had a reputation for understanding both people and animals in ways that often surprised those around her. She listened intently as the priest described the cat's actions and the peculiar circumstances of its arrival. "I've noticed it too," Maria admitted, stirring a pot of soup on the stove. "It's not like other strays. There's a purpose in its eyes, Father, almost as if it knows something we don't." Father Michael nodded, his brow furrowed. "But what could it be waiting for? Every time I try to approach it, it runs off. It doesn't seem to trust anyone." Maria chuckled softly. "Animals trust actions more than words. Perhaps you need to show it kindness without expecting anything in return. Leave food, water, something to let it know this is a safe place." Taking her advice to heart, Father Michael set out a small dish of food and water near the church doors that evening. He watched from a distance as the cat cautiously approached, its movements deliberate and wary. After a long moment of hesitation, it began to eat, casting occasional glances at the empty doorway as though expecting someone to emerge. When it finished, it retreated to its usual spot under the tree, curling up with a soft sigh that tugged at the priest's heart. Over the next few days, Father Michael continued to provide for the cat, each small act of care bringing him closer to understanding its quiet vigil. But the more he observed, the more questions arose. Why did the cat seem so fixated on the church, and what, or who, was it waiting for? Maria, ever the voice of reason, suggested looking into the church's recent history. "Sometimes the answers we seek are right in front of us," she said, handing him a stack of old parish records. "Maybe this little one is tied to someone who once found solace here." As Father Michael combed through the records, he began to uncover stories of people whose lives had intersected with the church in profound ways. One name stood out, Amelia Rivera, a devoted member of the parish who had passed away 6 months earlier. Amelia had been known for her love of animals, often bringing strays to the church to find them homes. Could the cat be one of hers? The timing seemed too coincidental to ignore. Driven by this possibility, Father Michael reached out to the remaining members of Amelia's family. Her grandson, Daniel, was the first to respond. When the priest described the cat and its behavior, Daniel's voice trembled with emotion. "That sounds like Lily," he said. "She was my grandmother's cat. After Grandma passed, Lily disappeared. We thought she was gone for good." Father Michael's heart ached at the revelation. It seemed she had been waiting here all this time, perhaps searching for something, or someone. Daniel agreed to visit the church the next day, hoping to reunite with the cat. When he arrived, he carried a small bag of treats and a photograph of Amelia holding Lily in her lap. The resemblance was unmistakable, but as they approached the church, Lily remained elusive, darting away at the sight of the stranger. "She doesn't recognize me anymore," Daniel said sadly, watching the cat disappear into the shadows. Father Michael placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes trust takes time. Let's give her the space she needs." Despite the setback, Daniel returned each day, sitting quietly near the church doors with treats and a soft voice. Slowly but surely, Lily began to approach, her cautious steps a testament to the bond that still lingered between them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she finally allowed him to touch her, her soft fur trembling under his hand. "It's her," Daniel whispered, tears streaming down his face. "She remembers." For Father Michael, the reunion was a bittersweet reminder of the connections that bound all creatures to one another. But even as he rejoiced in the progress they had made, he couldn't shake the feeling that Lily's vigil was more than a simple act of loyalty. There was still a mystery to unravel, one that went beyond the cat's bond with her late owner. In the days that followed, Father Michael began to notice a pattern in Lily's behavior. Each evening, just as the church bells rang out the hour, she would rise from her spot and move toward the altar, her gaze fixed on a particular stained glass window. The window depicted Saint Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of animals, holding a small bird in his hands. It was a beautiful piece, but to Father Michael, it seemed an odd focus for a stray cat. Curious, he began to research the window's history, hoping to uncover a clue that might explain Lily's fascination. What he discovered left him both astonished and deeply moved. What had drawn the cat to this particular place, and what connection did it have to the saint depicted in the glass? As Father Michael delved deeper into the story, he realized that Lily's presence was no coincidence. It was the beginning of something far greater than any of them had imagined. Father Michael's research into the stained glass window revealed a remarkable story. The window had been commissioned decades earlier by a parishioner named Elena Marquez, who had donated it in memory of her son, Timothy. Timothy had been a compassionate young man, known for rescuing stray animals and nursing them back to health. Tragically, he had passed away at a young age, and the window had been Elena's way of honoring his legacy. As Father Michael read through the old church archives, he noticed a striking similarity between Timothy's story and Amelia's. Both had been caretakers of the vulnerable, dedicating their lives to acts of kindness. Could there be a spiritual connection between the two? And if so, what role did Lily play in this unfolding narrative? While the discovery deepened the mystery, it also brought new challenges. Lily's attachment to the church seemed rooted in something more profound than her bond with Amelia or her attraction to the window. Each evening, as the bells rang and the light from the stained glass bathed the altar in a kaleidoscope of colors, Lily would sit upright, her gaze unwavering. It was as though she were waiting for a sign, or a person. Maria, ever pragmatic, suggested that the cat's behavior might be tied to routine rather than spirituality. Animals can be drawn to patterns, she said, folding her arms. Maybe the bells or the light triggers a memory for her. Father Michael nodded, though he wasn't convinced. The intensity of Lily's focus felt too deliberate, too purposeful to be dismissed as a mere response to stimuli. "There's more to this, Maria," he said quietly. "I can feel it." Meanwhile, Daniel continued his daily visits, growing closer to Lily with each passing day. Though their bond was strengthening, he confided in Father Michael that he was struggling with feelings of guilt. "I abandoned her," he said one afternoon, his voice thick with emotion. "After Grandma passed, I should have taken her in. Instead, I let her wander." "You didn't abandon her," Father Michael reassured him. "Lily's here for a reason. Whatever brought her to this church, it's part of a bigger plan." But Daniel's guilt wasn't the only complication. Word of the cat's mysterious vigil began to spread, drawing curious onlookers to the church. Some came out of genuine interest, hoping to witness the behavior Father Michael had described. Others were less respectful, treating the situation as a spectacle. One evening, a group of teenagers arrived, their laughter echoing through the churchyard as they tried to coax Lily out of hiding with loud calls and flashing cameras. Father Michael intervened, his stern demeanor silencing the group. "This is a sacred place," he said firmly. "And that cat is not here for your entertainment. Please show some respect." Though the teens left reluctantly, the incident left Father Michael shaken. How could he protect Lily while still allowing her the freedom to fulfill whatever purpose had drawn her to the church? He decided to speak with the parish council, hoping to find a solution that balanced the cat's safety with the growing interest from the community. During the meeting, opinions were divided. Some council members suggested setting up a dedicated area for Lily, away from the main entrance, to prevent disturbance. Others argued that the cat's presence was a blessing, drawing new visitors to the church and reigniting interest in its history and mission. "It's not just about the cat," one council member said. "People are searching for meaning in her story. Maybe this is an opportunity to share our faith." Father Michael considered the idea carefully. While he agreed that Lily's presence had sparked curiosity and engagement, he didn't want her story to be exploited. In the end, the council agreed to install a small, unobtrusive shelter near the church doors, providing Lily with a safe space while maintaining her connection to the church. As the shelter was built, another complication arose. A local animal rescue organization, having heard about Lily, contacted Father Michael with a proposition. They wanted to relocate the cat to their facility, arguing that it would be safer and more controlled. Though their intentions seemed noble, Father Michael felt uneasy about removing Lily from the place she had chosen as her sanctuary. "Lily isn't just any stray," he explained during a tense phone call with the rescue group's director. "She has a purpose here, one that goes beyond what we can see. Taking her away would disrupt that." The director was skeptical but agreed to visit the church to see Lily's behavior firsthand. When she arrived, she was struck by the cat's calm demeanor and the way she seemed to move with purpose, as though she truly belonged. After observing for an hour, the director relented. "You might be right," she admitted. "There's something special about her. But promise me you'll keep her safe." As Father Michael promised to do so, a new thought began to take shape in his mind. What if Lily wasn't just waiting for someone but leading them? What if her presence was meant to guide others toward a deeper understanding of faith, compassion, or healing? The questions grew more urgent as the first whispers of a miracle began to circulate among the parishioners. One woman claimed that, after praying near Lily, she had found unexpected clarity about a difficult decision. Another said the cat's presence had brought her comfort during a time of deep grief. Though Father Michael was cautious about labeling these experiences as divine, he couldn't deny the growing sense that Lily's vigil was part of something extraordinary. And yet, the mystery remained unsolved. What, or who, was Lily waiting for, and how would the answer shape the lives of those who had come to care for her? The weeks passed, and Lily's presence at the church continued to captivate the community. Visitors came and went, many kneeling in quiet prayer near her shelter. Some left small offerings, candles, notes of gratitude, even bowls of food, as though Lily were a vessel for their hopes and fears. For Father Michael, the growing reverence toward the cat brought both inspiration and unease. "I'm not sure if this is devotion or desperation," he confided to Maria one evening as they watched Lily from the rectory window. The cat was sitting in her usual spot, her eyes fixed on the stained glass window that depicted St. Francis cradling animals. "People find faith in different ways," Maria, ever pragmatic, shrugged. "If Lily brings them comfort, isn't that a good thing?" "It is," Father Michael agreed. "But I worry about what happens if their hopes are misplaced. What if we're projecting meaning onto something we don't fully understand?" Maria tilted her head, considering his words. "Isn't that what faith is, trusting in what we can't explain?" Her comment stayed with Father Michael as he prepared for the evening service. He noticed Daniel sitting in the back pew, his shoulders hunched and his face drawn with worry. After the service ended, Father Michael approached him. "Daniel, are you all right? You seem troubled." Daniel hesitated before answering, his voice low. "It's Lily. I keep thinking about what brought her here, about everything she's been through, and I can't help but wonder, am I the reason she's stuck? Did my neglect force her to cling to something else?" Father Michael placed a reassuring hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Lily isn't stuck. She chose to come here, and whatever brought her to this church, it's not your fault. You cared for her in the way you knew how." Daniel nodded, though his expression remained conflicted. "I want to take her home," he admitted. "But I'm scared. What if she doesn't want to leave? What if I'm not enough for her anymore?" The priest's heart ached for the young man's vulnerability. "You're more than enough, Daniel. But maybe this isn't about taking Lily away from the church. Maybe it's about finding a way to share her journey." The conversation planted a seed in Daniel's mind, though he wasn't sure what it meant yet. In the days that followed, he spent more time at the church, observing Lily and speaking with the parishioners who had been touched by her presence. He began to see how much the cat had become a part of their lives, a quiet symbol of hope and resilience. But the challenges continued to mount. One afternoon, Father Michael received an unexpected visitor, Elena Marquez's granddaughter, Caroline, a historian by profession. Caroline had been researching her grandmother's life when she came across references to the stained glass window and the church where it resided. "This place meant so much to my grandmother," Caroline explained as they stood in the nave. "She believed that Timothy's spirit lived on through his love for animals. When I heard about the cat, I had to come see for myself." Lily, as if sensing Caroline's arrival, approached her cautiously. Caroline knelt down, her eyes filling with tears as she gently stroked the cat's fur. "It's like she knows," she whispered. "Like she remembers." Father Michael watched the interaction with a mixture of awe and curiosity. Could Lily's presence truly be connected to Timothy's legacy? The possibility stirred something deep within him, a sense that the cat's vigil was not only a mystery but a message. Caroline's visit brought a new layer of complexity to the situation. She expressed a desire to document Lily's story as part of her research, a proposal that both excited and concerned Father Michael. While he appreciated the opportunity to honor Timothy's memory, he worried about the implications of turning Lily's journey into a public spectacle. "Her story is already inspiring people," Caroline argued when he voiced his concerns. "Why not share it on a larger scale? It could bring even more support to the church and the community." Father Michael's side was torn between the potential benefits and the risks. "I just don't want her to lose what makes her special," he said. "Lily isn't a symbol for us to exploit. She's a soul with her own purpose." Caroline nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe that's the story we need to tell, not just what she means to us, but what she's teaching us about faith and connection." As Father Michael mulled over her words, a new complication arose. A reporter from a local news station had heard about Lily and wanted to feature her story in an upcoming segment. While the attention could bring much-needed support to the church, it also risked drawing more unwanted visitors and potentially disrupting Lily's quiet vigil. Daniel, who had been listening to the discussion, spoke up. If we tell her story, we have to do it right. It's not just about Lily. It's about everything she's brought to this place, the kindness, the hope, the faith. People need to see that. Father Michael agreed, though he remained wary. He decided to allow the reporter to visit under strict conditions, ensuring that Lily's well-being remained the top priority. As the interview was scheduled, he prayed for guidance, trusting that the truth of Lily's journey would shine through. The day of the reporter's visit arrived, bringing a mix of excitement and trepidation to the church. The small crew set up their cameras carefully, guided by Father Michael's insistence that the sanctuary's sacredness be respected. Parishioners gathered to witness the moment, eager to see how Lily's story would be told. Lily, true to her nature, remained composed. She sat near the altar, her amber eyes observing the commotion with quiet dignity. The lead reporter, a woman named Grace Andrews, approached Father Michael with an air of professionalism, her notebook in hand. "She's remarkable," Grace remarked, nodding toward Lily. "It's not every day we come across a story like this. I want to make sure we do it justice." Father Michael appreciated her sincerity. "Lily isn't just a story," he said. "She's a presence. She's brought people together in ways I can't fully explain." The interview began with Grace asking about Lily's arrival and the impact she had on the church community. Father Michael shared the now familiar narrative, a stray cat finding refuge and becoming a symbol of hope. But as the conversation delved deeper, Grace asked a question that caught him off guard. "Do you think Lily's presence here is a coincidence, or could there be something divine about it?" Father Michael hesitated, his thoughts racing. He had pondered this question countless times but never voiced his conclusions publicly. "Faith often thrives in the unexplained," he replied carefully. "Whether Lily's presence is divine or not, I believe she's here for a reason." As the interview continued, Lily became the center of attention. The camera crew captured her every movement, from her serene posture to the tilt of her head as she observed the room. Grace narrated the story with genuine warmth, weaving in anecdotes from parishioners who had found solace in Lily's presence. One such account came from an elderly woman named Agnes, who tearfully described how Lily had comforted her during a difficult time. "I lost my husband last year," Agnes explained, her voice trembling. "Coming here and seeing Lily, it felt like a sign that I wasn't alone." Grace's eyes softened as she listened. "Stories like yours are what makes this so special. Lily isn't just a cat. She's a bridge between people and their faith." But as the filming wrapped up, a new complication arose. A man in a weathered coat lingered at the edge of the gathering, his gaze fixed on Lily. Father Michael noticed him and approached cautiously. "Can I help you?" the priest asked, his tone gentle. The man hesitated before speaking. I think I know this cat," he said, his voice rough but earnest. "She looks just like one I used to have. Her name was Clementine." Father Michael felt a chill run through him. "Are you sure?" he asked, glancing at Lily. "She's been here for months. Do you know where she might have come from?" The man nodded slowly. "I lost her about a year ago. I thought she was gone for good. But seeing her here, it's like she found her way back to something important." The revelation added a layer of complexity to the story. If the man's claim was true, it raised questions about Lily's journey and her connection to the church. Father Michael promised to investigate further, though he couldn't ignore the unease settling in his chest. That evening, Father Michael and Daniel discussed the man's claim. "What if he's telling the truth?" Daniel asked, his voice tinged with worry. "What if Lily really is his?" "It's possible," Father Michael admitted. "But it doesn't change what she's brought to this place. She's touched so many lives here, yours, mine, everyone's. We need to approach this carefully." The following day, Father Michael reached out to the man, whose name was revealed to be Arthur. Together, they pieced together Lily's potential history. Arthur described a beloved cat who had been his companion during a difficult chapter of his life, offering comfort and companionship when he had little else. "She was my light," Arthur said, his voice breaking. "When I lost her, I felt like I lost a part of myself." Father Michael listened intently, moved by Arthur's story, but questions remained. How had Lily ended up at the church, and why had she stayed? As they spoke, Arthur asked a question that lingered in Father Michael's mind long after their conversation ended. "If she is my Clementine, do you think she found her way here for a reason?" That night, Father Michael stood in the sanctuary, watching Lily as she rested near the altar. Her calm presence seemed to hold an answer he couldn't yet grasp. "If you're Clementine," he whispered, "why are you here? What are you trying to show us?" The question echoed in the stillness, unanswered but profound. The arrival of Arthur and the possibility of Lily's past had deepened the mystery, leaving Father Michael to wonder if the cat's journey was far more intricate than he had ever imagined. The revelation of Arthur's potential connection to Lily brought a wave of curiosity and concern throughout the congregation. Word spread quickly, and opinions varied widely. Some saw it as a miraculous confirmation of Lily's unique purpose, while others worried it might lead to her departure from the church. Father Michael, meanwhile, found himself torn between his role as a spiritual leader and his growing attachment to Lily. He knew the ethical thing to do was to verify Arthur's claim, but the thought of losing her weighed heavily on his heart. During the next service, Father Michael addressed the congregation directly, sensing the undercurrent of unease. "Lily's presence here has been a blessing to us all," he began, his voice steady. "But if she truly belongs to someone who loved her and lost her, we must consider what that means. Our faith teaches us to act with compassion and integrity, even when it's difficult." The parishioners murmured among themselves, exchanging glances. Agnes, the elderly woman who had shared her story with the reporter, stood up. "Father, Lily may have come from somewhere else, but she's found her home here. We shouldn't rush to send her away." Others nodded in agreement, but a younger man named Robert raised his hand to speak. "I understand how we all feel about Lily," he said, his tone respectful. "But if Arthur really is her owner, don't we owe it to him, and to her, to explore the truth?" Father Michael nodded. "You're both right. That's why we'll proceed carefully. I've asked Arthur to bring any photos or records he has of his cat, and I'll consult with a veterinarian to see if Lily might be microchipped." That week, Arthur returned with a worn album of photographs. The images showed a younger version of Lily, her amber eyes unmistakable, sitting on a tattered couch, curled up on Arthur's lap, and playing with a ball of yarn. The evidence was compelling, but not definitive. Father Michael arranged for Lily to be examined by a local veterinarian. With Daniel's help, they brought her to the clinic, where the vet scanned her for a microchip. To their surprise, the scan revealed a chip, but it was unregistered. "It's unusual," the vet explained. "Sometimes people don't follow through with registering the chip, or the information gets lost over time. All we know is that she had an owner at some point." This revelation deepened the mystery but offered no clear answers. Arthur remained steadfast in his belief that Lily was his Clementine, yet Father Michael couldn't ignore the bond she had formed with the church and its community. Meanwhile, the story of Lily's potential origins began to attract attention beyond the congregation. Grace Andrews, the reporter, followed up with Father Michael to see how the story was developing. "This new twist adds so much depth," she said. "It's not just about a stray cat anymore. It's about the connections we form and what home really means." Grace's perspective resonated with Father Michael. He realized that Lily's journey, regardless of its final destination, was a testament to the power of love and resilience. As the days passed, Arthur began spending more time at the church, sitting quietly near the back during services or lingering in the courtyard where Lily often roamed. His presence drew mixed reactions. Some parishioners were wary of his intentions, while others welcomed him as another soul seeking solace. One afternoon, Arthur approached Daniel, who was tending to the church garden. "Do you think she remembers me?" Arthur asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Daniel hesitated, carefully choosing his words. "Lily, or Clementine, has been through a lot. But she's here now, and she's made a place for herself. Maybe that's what matters most." Arthur nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I don't want to take her away if she's happy here. I just needed to know she's okay." Later, Daniel relayed the conversation to Father Michael, who felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps there was a way to honor both Arthur's connection to Lily and the role she had come to play in the church. The turning point came during an evening service when Lily did something unexpected. As Arthur sat quietly in the pews, she approached him for the first time, her movements slow and deliberate. The congregation watched in silence as Lily leapt onto the bench beside him, curling up against his side. Arthur's eyes filled with tears as he gently stroked her fur. "It's her," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "She remembers." The moment was both beautiful and bittersweet. It confirmed Arthur's bond with Lily while underscoring the dilemma they all faced. Father Michael observed from the pulpit, his heart heavy with the weight of the decision ahead. After the service, Father Michael gathered Arthur, Daniel, and a few key parishioners to discuss the path forward. "Arthur, it's clear that you and Lily share a deep connection," he began. But it's also clear that she's become an integral part of this community. Perhaps there's a way to honor both. Arthur looked around the room, his gaze softening as he saw the love and concern in the faces of those who had come to care for Lily. "I don't want to disrupt what she's found here," he said. "Maybe I can be part of it too." The suggestion sparked a wave of relief and inspiration. Together, they began brainstorming ways to integrate Arthur into the church's life, allowing him to reconnect with Lily while preserving her role as a source of comfort and unity. By the end of the evening, they had a plan, one that would honor Lily's past, embrace her present, and shape her future in a way that reflected the best of their faith and compassion. In the days that followed, the arrangement seemed to be working. Arthur became a regular presence at the church, volunteering to help Daniel with the garden and attending services with the congregation. Lily, ever the independent spirit, seemed to thrive with both the familiarity of Arthur's presence and the loving attention she received from everyone at the church. But not everyone was content with this resolution. Though small, a vocal group within the congregation began questioning Father Michael's decision to involve Arthur in their close-knit community. "What if he decides to take her away after all?" one parishioner asked during a council meeting. "We've built something special around Lily. Can we really risk